The Pathfinder drifted through the void like a ghost, its hull absorbing every wavelength of electromagnetic radiation that touched it. Captain Nicole Foster sat in the command chair, her eyes fixed on the tactical display that showed something no human had ever wanted to see. 2,000 warships. The Corthan Dominion had assembled an armada that could reduce entire star systems to glowing cinders, and they were positioning themselves near New Haven, a human colony world where 12 million people lived their lives in blissful ignorance of the storm gathering above them. Lieutenant Bradley Chen looked up from his sensor station, his face pale. He was 26 years old and had joined the reconnaissance service because he thought it would be exciting. Now he was learning the difference between excitement and terror. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures consistent with weapon charging cycles. They're not trying to hide their intentions." Nicole nodded slowly. She had been monitoring Dominion military movements for 3 years, ever since Earth's intelligence division had determined that humanity's rapid expansion might eventually draw unwanted attention from the galaxy's dominant power. That day had arrived. "Record everything," she ordered. "Full spectrum analysis. I want every ship class identified, every power signature cataloged, every communication intercept archived. When we report this to Earth, they'll need complete tactical data." The bridge crew worked in focused silence. Nicole watched the chronometer tick down minutes that felt like hours. Then, exactly at the time her intelligence briefings had predicted, a new signal flooded across every communication frequency used by human colonies. The face that appeared on every screen belonged to Archon Velthorax, Supreme Military Commander of the Corthan Dominion. He was ancient by any standard, his features bearing the distinctive bone structure and luminescent markings of a species that had ruled this region of space for 50,000 years. His eyes held the cold certainty of someone who had never been denied. "Humans of Earth and your scattered colonies," Velthorax began, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. "Your expansion ends today. The Corthan Dominion has observed your species for the past century. You have spread across 47 star systems with remarkable speed, establishing colonies and extracting resources from worlds that lie within our sphere of influence." Nicole felt her jaw tight. The Dominion's sphere of influence encompassed 4,000 systems. Human colonies occupied a tiny fraction of 1% of that space, all of it in regions the Dominion had never bothered to develop. "The Dominion has deliberated on this matter," Velthorax continued. "We have decided that humanity's uncontrolled expansion represents a potential future threat. Therefore, you will comply with the following terms. First, all human colonies established within the past 50 standard years will be evacuated within 30 days. Second, Earth will pay tribute to the Dominion in the form of industrial resources and technological data in perpetuity. Third, the Dominion will assign governors to all human worlds to ensure compliance with these terms." The Archon paused, letting the weight of his words settle across light years of space. "You will note the fleet currently positioned near your colony world of New Haven. This represents a small fraction of the Dominion's military power, yet it numbers 2,000 warships. This is not a negotiation. Compliance is mandatory. Your ambassador has 72 hours to deliver Earth's acceptance of these terms at Outpost Meridian. Resistance will result in consequences your species cannot imagine." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody on the Pathfinder's bridge spoke. Then Nicole stood, her voice steady despite the implications of what they had just witnessed. "Chen, compile the full intelligence package. Communications, encrypt everything with Protocol Omega, and transmit to Earth Defense Command with Priority Alpha. Navigation, plot a course that keeps us outside Dominion sensor range but maintains observation position. We stay on station until ordered otherwise." As her crew executed their orders, Nicole allowed herself a moment of private thought. The Dominion had just made the worst mistake in its 50,000-year history. They had threatened Earth without understanding what they were threatening. They would learn. The galaxy would learn, but she took no pleasure in the knowledge. The lesson would be written in fire and steel, and nobody would walk away from it unchanged. On Earth, in the fortified command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Vincent Hayes received the intelligence package from the Pathfinder with the calm of someone who had spent 30 years preparing for exactly this scenario. He was 61 years old, his hair more gray than black, his face lined with the accumulated stress of command. But his eyes remained sharp, and his mind retained the strategic clarity that had made him Earth's chief of defense operations. While other admirals commanded fleets and fought battles, Hayes' job was to think about the unthinkable and plan for the impossible. The holographic display in the command center showed real-time data from 17,000 sources scattered across human space. Automated surveillance platforms, stealth reconnaissance ships, deep space sensor arrays, and civilian observation post all fed information into the vast intelligence network Hayes had spent 2 decades building. Commander Lucas Grant stood at his customary position near the tactical console, reviewing the Dominion fleet composition with professional detachment. He was 42, a veteran of border conflicts with pirate cartels and separatist movements, but this was different. This was a peer adversary, or at least that was what the Dominion believed themselves to be. 2,000 warships, Lucas said quietly. The intelligence estimates were accurate. They're showing us their strength, trying to intimidate us into submission. Hayes nodded. Velthorax is old, Lucas, older than any human who has ever lived. He has watched civilizations rise and fall. He believes experience equals wisdom. It's a common mistake among the long-lived. Sir, with respect, 2,000 warships represents a significant threat regardless of their commander's philosophy. It does, Hayes agreed. If we were the species they think we are. Status report on network activation. Lucas pulled up the classified data on his personal display. All defense platforms report green status. Stealth satellites are holding position throughout the target zone. Fleet assets have begun transitioning from storage to active deployment. We can achieve full operational readiness in 14 hours. Hayes permitted himself a thin smile. Then we have time for the Unified Council to debate their options. The Unified Earth Council convened within the hour. 47 representatives, one for each human colony world, appeared via holographic projection. The debate that followed was exactly what Hayes had anticipated. Some advocated immediate military response. Others urged diplomatic negotiation. A vocal minority suggested accepting the Dominion's terms and hoping for better conditions in the future. Ambassador Patricia Cole listened to the arguments with the patience of someone who had spent 3 decades in diplomatic service. She was 58 years old, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, with a reputation for maintaining composure in situations that would break lesser negotiators. She had faced down warlords, corrupt politicians, and corporate magnates. She was not intimidated by ancient aliens with delusions of supremacy. When the debate reached its inevitable stalemate, she spoke. "We have 3 options," Patricia said, her voice cutting through the competing arguments. "We can submit, we can fight immediately, or we can issue a warning and give the Dominion one chance to withdraw peacefully." Counselor Margaret Flynn from Mars Colony leaned forward. "A warning? Ambassador, they just threatened us with annihilation." What possible warning could convince them to back down? "A sincere one," Patricia replied. "Backed by capability they cannot yet detect. Admiral Hayes, please brief the Council on our actual defensive posture." Hayes stood, and the holographic display shifted to show what few people outside the Defense Command had ever seen: the true extent of Earth's military preparation. "For the past century," Hayes began, "Earth has maintained a publicly visible military force consistent with our stated doctrine of peaceful expansion and defensive preparedness. What the Dominion sees when they look at us is a modest fleet of 300 warships and standard planetary defense systems." The display zoomed in, revealing layers of concealed assets that had remained hidden for decades. What they don't see is this: 14,000 automated defense platforms positioned throughout human space. Each platform mounts weapon systems 2 generations ahead of what the Dominion possesses. 6,000 stealth satellites with full offensive capability. 800 warships in concealed deployment, hidden in asteroid fields, dark matter clouds and subspace pockets. He paused, letting the numbers sink in. Our technology level exceeds theirs in every critical category. Faster than light travel, energy weapons, defensive shields, materials science, artificial intelligence, quantum communications. The Dominion is powerful because they are old and numerous. We are more powerful because we evolved under pressure they cannot imagine. Counselor Flynn stared at the display in shock. Why wasn't the council informed of this? Because, Patricia interjected smoothly, effective deterrence requires secrecy. If the Dominion had known our true capabilities, they might have struck preemptively with their full strength. By appearing weak, we avoided conflict. Now that conflict is unavoidable, we have the advantage of surprise. So we fight, another counselor said. No, Patricia corrected. We warn, one clear, unmistakable warning. If they ignore it, we demonstrate exactly why ignoring Earth's warnings is a catastrophic mistake. But we give them the chance to choose peace. That distinguishes us from them. The vote that followed was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Patricia Cole would travel to Outpost Meridian and deliver Earth's response. Commander Lucas Grant would accompany her as military liaison, with orders to coordinate Earth's response if the Dominion chose violence over wisdom. As the council session ended, Hayes found Patricia in the corridor outside the chamber. "You genuinely believe they'll listen?" he asked. Patricia met his gaze steadily. "I believe in giving them the chance." "But no, Admiral, I don't think they'll listen. Velthorax has ruled for too long and crushed too many opponents. He'll dismiss our warning as the bluff of a desperate species." "Then why bother with the warning?" "Because," Patricia said quietly, "when historians write about this day, I want them to record that Earth offered peace before demonstrating war. It matters, not to the Dominion, but to us." The diplomatic courier ship messenger arrived at Outpost Meridian exactly 72 hours after the Dominion's ultimatum. Patricia Cole walked down the boarding ramp with Commander Lucas Grant at her side, and 4 security personnel following at a discreet distance. Outpost Meridian was a massive structure, a military installation and trade hub that served as the Dominion's primary interface with species on the frontier of their territory. Thousands of beings from dozens of species moved through its corridors, conducting business, seeking permits, or simply trying to navigate the bureaucratic labyrinth of Dominion administration. Patricia and Lucas were escorted to a communication chamber deep within the outpost. The room was deliberately imposing, with high ceilings and walls covered in the achievements of Dominion military history. Holographic displays showed battles won, worlds conquered, civilizations brought to heel. Lucas studied the displays with a tactical officer's eye. "Psychological warfare," he murmured. "They want supplicants to feel small and powerless before negotiations even begin." "It's effective," Patricia acknowledged. "Against species that can be intimidated. Against us, it's just interior decoration." The holographic communication system activated, and Archon Velthorax appeared before them. He was not alone. Dozens of high-ranking Dominion officers flanked him, a carefully staged display of overwhelming military power. "Ambassador Cole," Velthorax began, his tone suggesting mild surprise that she had bothered to appear at all. "I trust you bring Earth's acceptance of our terms." Patricia stood perfectly straight, meeting the Archon's gaze without flinching. Her voice was calm, measured, and utterly inflexible. "Archon Velthorax, I have reviewed your ultimatum with the Unified Earth Council. After careful consideration, I am here to deliver humanity's response." She paused, letting the silence build. "Withdraw your fleet from New Haven immediately. Abandon all demands upon humanity. If you proceed with hostile action against any human world, the Corthan Dominion will face consequences beyond your comprehension. This is not a negotiation. This is not a threat. This is the only warning you will receive." For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then one by one, the Dominion officers began to laugh. It started as quiet chuckles and built into full-throated amusement. Even Velthorax allowed a thin smile to cross his ancient features. "Ambassador," the Archon said when the laughter subsided, "I appreciate boldness in negotiations. It shows spirit, but this borders on delusion. The Corthan Dominion has existed for 50,000 years. We have crushed 47 different civilizations. Some were technologically advanced. Some were numerous. Some were fierce warriors. All believed themselves special. All eventually submitted or died. He leaned forward slightly, his luminescent markings pulsing with emphasis. Your species has existed as a spacefaring civilization for barely a century. You occupy 47 minor worlds. You field a fleet of perhaps 300 vessels, and yet you stand before me and issue warnings. You threaten consequences. Patricia remained unmoved. I have delivered Earth's message. You have 24 hours to withdraw your fleet. If you choose to ignore this warning, you will discover exactly why Earth means what it says. Velthorax's amusement faded, replaced by cold calculation. Very well. Since diplomacy has failed, I will provide a demonstration of why the Dominion's will is absolute. In 24 hours, our fleet will begin preliminary bombardment of New Haven's orbital infrastructure. This will serve as an example to your other colonies of the price of defiance. You may remain at this outpost to observe, or you may return to Earth and explain to your people why their arrogance led to their suffering. Patricia looked at the Archon with something that might have been genuine sadness. Then you have chosen doom, Archon. I genuinely regret that your arrogance has brought us to this outcome. Earth offered you peace. You chose war. May whatever gods your people worship have mercy on you, because history will not. She turned and walked from the chamber without waiting for dismissal. Lucas followed, noting the stunned expressions on the faces of several Dominion officers who seemed unsettled by Patricia's absolute certainty. Once they were back aboard the messenger, Lucas voiced the question that had been building throughout the meeting. Ambassador, do you truly believe we can defeat them? 2,000 warships represents massive firepower regardless of our technological advantages. Patricia looked at him with tired eyes. Lucas, I've read the classified briefings. All of them. I know what Admiral Hayes has built. The Dominion has no idea what they're walking into. They're about to learn that age and numbers mean nothing against preparation and capability. But that doesn't make me happy. Thousands of Dominion personnel are about to have their entire understanding of galactic power structure shattered. Many will be injured. Some may die if they're foolish enough to resist when their ships are disabled. And all of it could have been avoided if Velthorax had possessed the wisdom to recognize a genuine warning. She turned to look out the viewport as the messenger began its departure from Outpost Meridian. Remember this feeling, Commander. Remember that war, even necessary war, should inspire regret, not celebration. That's what separates us from empires like the Dominion. We fight when we must. They fight because they can. 24 hours passed with excruciating slowness. Captain Nicole Foster watched from the Pathfinder as the Dominion fleet completed its preparations. Weapon systems charged, battle formations aligned, targeting solutions were calculated. On New Haven, civilian authorities had evacuated all orbital platforms and grounded all spacecraft. 12 million people watched the sky and wondered if their lives were about to end. Throughout human space, concealed defense platforms powered up from decades of silent waiting. Stealth satellites adjusted their positions. Hidden warships emerged from their hiding places, still cloaked but ready. In the command center beneath Earth's mountains, Admiral Hayes stood before the master tactical display with Commander Lucas Grant at his side. Patricia Cole had returned from Outpost Meridian and now observed from a discreet position, her diplomatic mission complete. Status, Hayes ordered. Lucas read from his displays. All defense platforms report ready. Fleet assets in position. New Haven's civilian infrastructure is secured. Dominion fleet is beginning approach vector. Weapon charging detected. Hayes nodded slowly. Begin operation warning shot. Execute the primary directive. Disable, do not destroy, minimal casualties, maximum demonstration. Acknowledged, sir. Initiating now. Light years away, near New Haven, the Dominion fleet advanced. Velthorax observed from his flagship, confident in the overwhelming superiority of his forces. 2,000 warships moved in perfect formation, a display of military might that had broken the will of countless civilizations. The lead elements of the Dominion fleet crossed into strike range of New Haven's orbital infrastructure. Velthorax prepared to give the order to fire when his tactical officer suddenly shouted in alarm. "Sir, Contact lost with forward battle group. 200 ships just vanished from sensors. Velthorax stepped forward, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. 200 warships had simply disappeared. Not destroyed, there were no debris fields or energy signatures. They were just gone. "Re-establish contact," he ordered. "I'm trying, sir. Wait, they're back on sensors, but they're drifting. Power readings minimal. Weapons offline. Life support only." Before Velthorax could process this information, more ships vanished. Then more. Within 30 seconds, 800 warships had been reduced to powerless hulks. "What's happening?" Velthorax demanded. His science officer looked up from his console, his expression one of complete bewilderment. "Unknown energy weapon, sir. It's not hitting us, it's passing through us. Selectively disabling systems while leaving life support intact. I've never seen anything like this." The tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts. Thousands of them. Objects that had been invisible moments ago were now revealing themselves, and they surrounded the Dominion fleet completely. Defense platforms, stealth satellites, warships emerging from concealment. The Dominion fleet was not hunting prey. They were trapped prey surrounded by predators. A communication signal cut through the chaos. Admiral Hayes' face appeared on every screen in the Dominion fleet. "Archon Velthorax, you were warned. You chose to ignore that warning and attack. Now you will learn why humanity issues warnings instead of threats. We actually mean them." The systematic dismantling of the Dominion fleet continued. It was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Earth's forces did not destroy, they disabled. Precision electromagnetic pulse weapons stripped away shield generators. Quantum disruption fields shut down power systems. Targeted strikes neutralized weapons arrays. The Dominion crews watched in helpless horror as their mighty warships were reduced to floating debris. Not a single human weapon caused a casualty. Every shot was precisely calibrated to disable rather than kill. The message was clear. Earth could have annihilated them but chose mercy. Within 2 hours, the entire Dominion fleet was powerless. 2,000 warships drifted in perfect formation, their crews alive but completely helpless. Captain Nicole Foster led boarding teams onto Dominion command vessels. Human soldiers in advanced powered armor moved through the ships with casual efficiency, extracting intelligence databases and securing key personnel. The Dominion officers who had laughed at Patricia Cole's warning now watched in stunned silence as humans demonstrated technological superiority that seemed almost magical. Lucas Grant coordinated the operation from the Sentinel, marveling at the precision of Earth's long-prepared response. Every step had been war-gamed thousands of times. Every contingency had been planned for. Every possible Dominion counter-tactic had been anticipated and neutralized. The Dominion never had a chance, because humanity had spent a century preparing for this exact scenario. Not hoping it would never come, but ensuring that if it did, the outcome was never in doubt. On Earth, Admiral Hayes watched the operation conclude with professional satisfaction but no sense of triumph. This was not victory. This was necessity. The galaxy needed to learn that threatening Earth was a catastrophic mistake. Now the lesson was taught. 3 days after the Battle of New Haven, as historians were already calling it, Ambassador Patricia Cole returned to Outpost Meridian. This time she arrived aboard the Earth Defense Force flagship Sentinel, accompanied by Commander Lucas Grant and a full honor guard. The communication chamber was the same, but the atmosphere was dramatically different. Archon Velthorax appeared alone without the surrounding officers who had witnessed his humiliation. His luminescent markings were dim. His posture suggested something that might have been shame in a human. "Ambassador Cole," he said quietly, "you have proven your point. Earth is more formidable than we imagined. State your terms." Patricia stood before him with the same calm demeanor she had displayed during their previous meeting, but now her words carried the weight of demonstrated capability. "Earth has no interest in conquest or revenge, Archon. We never did, but we will not tolerate threats to our existence. These are our terms." She activated a holographic display showing a revised map of the region. First, The Dominion will withdraw from all systems within 50 light-years of human-controlled space. This creates a buffer zone that ensures future conflicts do not arise from proximity. Second, all species currently under Dominion subjugation will be offered independence and Earth's protection if they choose to accept it. Third, the Dominion will broadcast to every species in this galaxy a complete and accurate account of what occurred here. You challenged Earth, ignored our warning, and faced complete defeat. Velthorax's expression darkened. You would humiliate us before the entire galaxy. I would ensure the galaxy learns the truth, Patricia corrected. That when Earth issues a warning, it should be heeded. That humanity seeks peace but possesses the capability to defend itself. That empires built on intimidation eventually encounter forces they cannot intimidate. She leaned forward slightly, her voice softening. You asked me to state our terms, Archon, but I will also state our offer. The Dominion need not fall. You need not be destroyed. Withdraw from your aggressive posture. Allow subjugated species to choose their own paths. Become a partner in galactic civilization rather than its overlord. Do this, and Earth will not pursue further action against you. Velthorax was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that came from profound realization. How? He asked simply. We have explored this galaxy for 50,000 years. We have encountered thousands of species. How did your civilization, barely a century old, develop capabilities that exceed ours in every category? Commander Lucas Grant stepped forward, answering the question that had haunted the Archon since his fleet was disabled. Because we come from a world where survival was never guaranteed, Archon. Every generation of humanity faced existential threats. Environmental disasters, plagues, wars, resource scarcity, predators, climate shifts. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. We learned that the species that survives is not the strongest or most numerous, but the most adaptable. Lucas gestured at the tactical data still displayed on nearby screens. You stagnated in your dominance, Archon. You became comfortable. You stopped innovating because you didn't need to innovate. You ruled through numbers and age, not through capability. We evolved under pressure you cannot imagine, and that pressure forged us into something you were unprepared to face. Patricia added the final observation. You assumed your experience and age gave you wisdom, but wisdom without humility is just arrogance. We warned you. We gave you every chance to choose peace. You chose to learn the hard way. Velthorax nodded slowly. I will comply with your terms, Ambassador. The broadcast will be made. The withdrawals will begin. The Dominion will adapt to this new reality. He paused, then asked one final question. What we witnessed at New Haven, the weapons and capabilities you displayed, was that your full military strength? Patricia smiled thinly. No, Archon. What you saw was a demonstration, a glimpse, enough to make our point. The full extent of Earth's defensive capabilities remains classified. Perhaps it's best if it remains that way. Mystery is an effective deterrent. The meeting concluded with formal acknowledgments and diplomatic protocols. As Patricia and Lucas returned to the Sentinel, Lucas voiced the thought that had been building throughout the negotiation. We changed the galaxy today, Ambassador. Nothing will ever be the same. Patricia nodded. That was the point, Commander. The old order, where might made right and empires crushed anyone weaker, that order is ending. Humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage isn't just about us. It's about showing every subjugated species that alternatives exist, that bullies can be stopped, that warnings, when sincere and backed by capability, should be heeded. She looked out at the stars visible through the viewport. The Dominion will broadcast their defeat. 7 species will declare independence within the month. Others will follow. The galaxy will reshape itself around a new principle: cooperation, not domination. And at the center of that transformation will be Earth's example. We were strong enough to destroy, but chose instead to warn, to disable, to demonstrate mercy even to those who threatened us. 3 months later, Commander Lucas Grant stood in the observation deck of the Sentinel, watching the routine operations of the newly established buffer zone. Dominion forces had withdrawn as promised. Human patrol ships moved through the region with casual confidence, no longer concealing their presence or capabilities. Captain Nicole Foster joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee from the ship's mess. "Thought you might need this," she said, handing him one. "Thanks. How's the intelligence gathering going?" Nicole shrugged. "Routine. The Dominion is complying with all terms. They've pulled back from contested regions. They're allowing independence referendums in subjugated systems. Velthorax himself has announced internal reforms. Think it will last? The reforms, maybe. The Dominion learned something at New Haven. They learned that ruling through fear only works until you encounter someone who isn't afraid. Whether they can adapt their culture after 50,000 years of dominance remains to be seen." Lucas nodded, sipping his coffee. 7 species declared independence. The broadcast went out exactly as we demanded. Every species in the galaxy now knows what happened. Earth issued a warning. The Dominion ignored it. Earth demonstrated overwhelming capability while showing restraint. "Applications for alliance with humanity have been pouring in," Nicole added. "Species that were neutral or even hostile are now seeking partnerships. Everyone wants to be on the side that kept its word and showed mercy." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the stars. "You know what strikes me as strange?" Lucas said finally. "We prepared for this scenario for a century. Built all those hidden platforms, developed weapons systems generations ahead of anyone else, trained for massive fleet engagements. And when the moment came, we won in 2 hours without firing a shot in anger." Nicole smiled. "That's not strange, Commander, that's the point. The best weapon is the one you never have to use. The best battle is the one you win before the enemy realizes they've lost." Admiral Hayes understood that. So did Ambassador Cole. They built capability so overwhelming that when we finally revealed it, resistance was pointless. Strategic deterrence. More than that, strategic inevitability. We made conflict so one-sided that even trying to fight became irrational. The Dominion could have kept fighting. They would have lost everything. Instead, they withdrew with their civilization intact. That's not defeat. That's choosing survival over pride. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. Lucas activated his personal display and read the incoming message. "Admiral Hayes wants us back at Earth for debriefing and reassignment." "Reassignment?" Nicole raised an eyebrow. "Apparently there are delegations from 23 different species requesting formal diplomatic contact. Earth needs experienced personnel to manage the relationships. He's assembling a first contact task force." Nicole laughed. "From hidden reconnaissance to galactic diplomacy. That's quite a transition." "The galaxy changed, Captain. We changed with it." Ambassador Patricia Cole stood in her office overlooking the rebuilt Geneva complex, now serving as the headquarters of Earth's diplomatic corps. The view stretched across the city and toward the mountains beyond, a landscape that had witnessed centuries of human conflict and cooperation. Admiral Vincent Hayes entered without ceremony, accepting the chair she offered with a grateful nod. He was officially retired now, though everyone knew he still advised the Defense Command on strategic matters. "The Independence Alliance is formally established," Patricia said, referring to the coalition of 7 species that had broken free from Dominion control. "They're requesting Earth serve as mediator for their mutual defense treaty." Hayes smiled. "Ironic. 3 months ago we were an unknown frontier species. Now we're arbitrating interstellar alliances." That's what happens when you back your words with capability and your capability with restraint. The galaxy respects strength, but it trusts wisdom. "Do you regret how it played out?" Hayes asked. "We could have avoided conflict entirely if we'd revealed our capabilities earlier." Patricia considered the question carefully. "No, if we'd revealed our strength too early, we would have been seen as a threat rather than a deterrent. The Dominion might have assembled their full forces and attacked before we were ready. Or other powers might have formed coalitions against us. By appearing weak until the moment we chose to demonstrate otherwise, we controlled the narrative." She moved to the window, looking out at the city. "Besides, there's a principle at stake. We gave the Dominion every chance to choose peace. We issued a clear warning. They ignored it. The consequences were entirely of their choosing. That matters. It establishes Earth as a civilization that keeps its word both in threats and in offers of peace." Hayes nodded. "Full strategic assessment came through yesterday. The operation at New Haven has deterred 3 other potential aggressors who were considering testing our resolve. They saw what happened to the Dominion and decided cooperation was preferable to conflict. Good. That was always the secondary objective. We didn't just want to stop the Dominion. We wanted to establish a principle that would prevent future conflicts. Do you think it will hold? Long term? Patricia turned back to face him. Nothing lasts forever, Admiral. Eventually, someone will test us again. Another empire will rise or an existing power will decide we're vulnerable. But for now, for this generation and probably the next, the galaxy knows Earth's position. We seek peace. We prepare for war. And when we issue a warning, it should be heeded. Hayes stood, preparing to leave. The Council is meeting next week to discuss long-term strategic planning. They want your input on diplomatic expansion. I'll be there. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Building alliances, establishing trade networks, creating diplomatic frameworks. The galaxy is opening to us in ways we never imagined. And all because we gave one warning and meant it. Patricia smiled. All because we prepared, we demonstrated restraint, and we kept our word. Those are the principles that will define Earth's place in galactic civilization. Not conquest, not domination, but reliable strength tempered with genuine wisdom. Commander Lucas Grant reviewed the updated star charts in his new office at Earth's Diplomatic Corps. His assignment to the First Contact Task Force had proven more challenging than combat operations, requiring patience, cultural sensitivity, and endless negotiations. But it was satisfying work. Each new alliance represented another species choosing cooperation over conflict, another civilization recognizing that Earth's model of strength with restraint offered a better path forward. A message notification appeared on his display. Captain Nicole Foster, recently promoted and assigned to deep space reconnaissance, was checking in from the frontier. Her message was brief but significant. She had made contact with a previously unknown civilization, one that had been hiding from the Dominion for centuries. They were cautiously interested in establishing relations with Earth, impressed by the reports they had received about humanity's approach to galactic affairs. Lucas smiled as he drafted his response. This was how civilizations changed, not through grand battles or dramatic confrontations, but through thousands of small connections, each one built on trust and mutual respect. The galaxy had received Earth's warning. The Dominion had learned the cost of ignoring it. Now came the harder work of building something better, something that would last not just years but generations. He looked at the star charts again, seeing not threats but opportunities. Potential allies, future partners, species that would look at Earth's example and choose a different path forward. The title of every military doctrine manual in Earth's Defense Force read simply, a single warning. Those 3 words encapsulated everything humanity had learned about power, restraint, and the proper use of both. That warning had been enough. This time, and if someday it needed to be issued again, Earth would be ready. Not eager, not aggressive, but absolutely, unquestionably ready. Because that was what humanity had become. A species that prepared for war so thoroughly that peace became the rational choice for everyone else. A civilization that meant what it said and said what it meant. A power that others could test once, and only once, before learning the lesson that the Corthan Dominion now taught to every species that would listen. When Earth issues a warning, heed it. The alternative is not death or destruction. It is the profound humiliation of realizing you challenged a force so overwhelmingly superior that resistance was pointless from the beginning. The Dominion survived. They retained their civilization, their territory, their dignity. But they would never forget the day they learned that age and numbers meant nothing against preparation and capability. The galaxy was changing. Earth had changed it. And at the heart of that change was a single principle that would define humanity's place among the stars for generations to come. A single warning. Sincere, backed by capability, and meant with absolute conviction. It was all humanity needed.